and waited till the bushfire had gone. And this was just off Kilcare Road. Many houses are there now. There weren't many cars at Kilcare in the old days, but looking at a wet Kilcare Road with very, very slushy gravel, you can see that driving around the area in the vehicles of the day was quite a challenge for any motorist who happened to be brave enough to get out there. This vehicle, driving through very pristine bush forest surroundings, has already negotiated some very, very difficult hill climbs just south of McMaster's Beach, where the road was very, very rough and rocky. It faced a further effort to get down into Kilcare because there are a series of hairpin bends which in those days, particularly on a wet day, would have been quite difficult to negotiate. We had great fun on the waterfront, particularly at low tide. There were thousands of soldier crabs, and other crabs as well, but it was the soldier crabs that really caught our attention as they swarmed about the sand, and we'd wander along, getting our feet very dirty and muddy and going down probably in some places up to our knees, and it was holiday fun at its very best.
Colleen Smith was a local resident and she worked in the stores.
But the stores gave a very, very good service and would stay open till 10 o'clock at night, which was very handy. Mail, it would come to Hardy's Bay Post Office, and then a little canvas bag would come over to the general store, and everyone had to come down the general store because there was no postal delivery. So it really worked out very well because generally they popped in and bought something. And incidentally then the mail was taken back, and at one time we had about 9 post boxes around the district where you dropped your mail in, and it was cleared and then taken by ferry, and that was a big thing, seeing the mail come in. Everyone would be looking, oh, here's the ferry coming, we'll be able to get our mail. And the ferries played a very big part of everyone's life from Wagstaff to Kilcare. Waterfront houses, they were holiday houses, but they would come up, the owners, or have tenants in, but the highlight would be the piano that was at the back of the shop in quite a nice large room, and different ones would get there for Saturday night, and they'd vamp away at the piano, dance away, but milkshakes sold well, and soft drinks and ice creams, and it was very popular. And up till only a few years ago, many people would say to me, but Colleen, it's not like it used to be, it's not like it used to be. And they made their own fun with their fishing and their dancing and going to the beach. People were very, very sharing and very, very caring those days. I think today the life is a different concept. People doing their own things. Mrs. Next Door could die, they wouldn't probably know.
Holidaymakers have been coming to Kilcare for 100 years, and the children have delighted in their time here, like this group. Mark Twain could have made a great story out of this crowd if he'd come to Kilcare on his visit to Australia. Bert Meyer is a different story. He grew up here, born in 1917. He and his family have lived in Blythe Street for over 90 years.
Well, that's our family. That's my mother and father. That's me on the horse. That's George, Ted, May, Rose and Frank up there. But the eldest daughter, she died when she was 10. She's not in this, but that was all the rest of our family. Around about, I was about, what 5 or 6 then. Yeah, in the 1920s that would be.
The family owned land near Fletcher's Glen, now Fraser Road. Bert's father, Mick, was a builder. They ran pigs and poultry and a dairy farm and grew vegetables, which later on Bert sold from his barrow. There was no school at Pretty Beach, so this is what happened.
At 7 we walked Empire Bay School.
Yes.
2 years before this one was built around there, 1926.
I can take a photograph.
1926, 27.
Now, where was the track to Empire Bay?
Well, It was a fairly good one. Sometimes we walked up over the hill, just past the corner from Fletcher's Glen there. We used to have a track right straight up over the hill there. But most times we walked right round the bay, Riley's Bay, and the school was just in the saddle of the hill at Empire Bay. We just walked up over Pat Murray's, where he had his farm there, where the old brick house was.
Yes.
And walked up and over and down and through people named Cousins' place and into the school there.
Right.
It's just the saddle of the hill, the lowest part of the hill.
Yes.
Mostly we did that way,
Yeah.
because this was pretty steep.
Let's move now further along the Kilcare extension and meet the active and laughter-loving octogenarian Sid Jenkins. Sid lived in this depression dwelling with his uncle and aunt during the Great Depression, when his uncle could find no work in Sydney. Amazingly, it was still standing, just, at the time of the interview. And tell us about the old, is that the stove and the fireplace as well?
and the grandmother had one of those chains with those big ovens, you know,
Yes.
and you'd hang that over the fire, and then we got the other little fire later on. We got that more modern.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a bedroom.
The
there.
bedroom,
Yeah.
if you just come over here,
Yeah.
the bedroom's up the far end.
Right.
Far end,
Yeah.
that's where the women slept, and here, that's what I used to sleep alongside of there,
So for
in a settee.
4 years, you slept on a settee.
Yeah, and the others had the beds, and the women were in the other end. And this is where we cooked and everything.
Yeah.
And then we had the big table out here in the summer, and that's where we had our Christmas. Oh, but they were good days.
Yeah.
You know, you never get those days again. You know yourself. We've seen the best.
And this was their thunderbox.
Yeah. That's not bad for that kind of toilet, is it?
Pretty good, yeah.
And just before he died, that's the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
In the early days it was worse than that. But you'd tar them,
Yes.
and in the place where they used to take all the business was that we buried ours right there.
Oh, right. So you have to bury yours there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bury it just in there. And the thing is, the others, all the other houses, it'd be taken over to Kilcare Beach up that way, because that's where they used to bury all the peoples.
Let's move on now to Riley's Bay, where if you struggle through Lantana and Bitu, you will find the remains of the Murray house, mentioned by Bert. This house, constructed with local stone, dates back to 1836, and the Murrays were one of the early settlers in the area. The Riley family then purchased the land from the Murrays, and Quentin Riley took us on a tour of the area where the family grazed cows, planted a garden, and lived self-sufficiently on the land.
And my grandfather's boats, my grandfather was a sea captain, William Riley. He plied between here and Sydney, and his two boats were moored out there in the open water, well beyond the bay here. Too tricky to try and bring a sailing boat into the bay. There's a very narrow channel right up in that southern corner, and keel would have probably bumped even at a high tide getting in there. So he moored them out in the middle, and then he travelled between here and Sydney and back again with goods, mostly shell for lime burning, and he brought building materials back with him. You'll see a lot of sandstones being used around here by my Uncle John, because he had oyster leases in the bay here for 70 years, and he used a lot of stone in his early leases, and so I think they pinched the stone from the house to build their leases with. My dad was born here in the bay, and my grandfather came here in the 1860s. The original home was over behind us. It was a two-room home, and all the children were born in that home. And I'm not quite sure of the total quantity, but William had 11 from his first marriage, and then he married my grandma, which is Isabella Frost, when she was 16, and he had another fairly large brood from Isabella, so he's pretty busy, and I think he had around about 18 or 19 children total. My dad was one of the last to be born, and he certainly looked after himself, because he lived at home with my mother till he was over 100.